Hey bro, what's up? One of the big themes here is exocraft polish. The team smoothed out several issues that used to make riding the Colossus or any exocraft feel off. Collisions on steep terrain are far less likely to launch you into the sky or jam your machine in place. There are explicit fixes for the Colossus's mechanical legs interacting with the ground, and a bunch of annoying camera problems when driving on slopes have been corrected so you don't get sudden perspective flips mid-turn. They also address things like erratic wheel spinning on other players' exocraft, and the rare cases where exocraft would clip through geometry or stop consuming fuel properly, which is a small but immersion-killing bug when you're cruising along a salvage run. Visually, there are upgrades to cockpit presentation and some aesthetic tweaks for the Colossus, so it actually looks like the hulking beast it's meant to be, rather than a hollow box on wheels. Mechanically, the Gravitino Coil, that gravity-manipulating multi-tool toy from the Remnant update, got a few targeted improvements too. Launching objects now carries more oomph, increased damage, and a more satisfying stun effect when you fling things at armored sentinel drones, and the magnetization of those drones has been made more reliable so the whole physics play experience feels less flaky. There are also cosmetic refinements to the coil's crosshair and other visual bits, so when you're trying to line up a throw or pick up a stack of scrap, the visuals match the mechanical intent better. All of this makes the Gravitino Coil feel like a real dependable tool rather than a novelty that sometimes works. On the environmental and world side, several collision and rendering bugs were squashed that used to ruin specific moments. Missing collision at waste heaps and waste processing plants has been repaired, so you won't fall through or get stuck in one of those new interactive locations. Trees and foliage on the Remnant Expedition planet received visual touch-ups, so the ecosystems look less glitchy, and some industrial waste visual effects, particularly those that could render oddly when processed by other players, were corrected. There was also an invisible collision blocking the Colossus furnace that has now been resolved, which was causing some players real grief when trying to make use of that mechanic mid-haul. All these fixes add up. Fewer visual oddities and fewer objects that behave like they're from a different game. Expeditions and mission flow received careful attention as well. The Remnant Expedition had a handful of issues around waypoint counting and milestones. There were reports of waypoints not counting towards things like the road signs milestone, and problems with starship fuel lockouts at end stages that could leave you stranded in awkward places. Patch 6.22 fixes waypoint counting and a clutch of autosave spawning issues that would sometimes place players in space with weird states. Mission guidance for things like industrial cleanup was improved too, with better context and corrected icons so you're not wandering a mission wondering what the heck the UI is trying to tell you. The expedition reward display also got fixed, so your hard-earned loot actually appears where it should in your log. These are the kind of fixes that make the expedition experience less fiddly, and more fun to actually complete. The update contains a healthy handful of UI and visual tweaks that help polish the overall presentation. Sub-4K textures for certain UI elements on PC were improved, which is a smart move for players not running top-tier displays. The interface should be crisp at all resolutions, and this patch nudges things that way. Crafting UI had a bug where lines were missing in the steps display, and that's been restored. Discovery thumbnails that sometimes rendered incorrectly have been fixed, and the analysis visor brightness issue that made some objects look blown out has been toned down. There's also a fix for 3D objects rendering incorrectly on UI screens and in VR, which had been causing little floating artifacts or misrendered items in places they shouldn't be. Even smaller touches like jetpack wing animation polish and the return of the little gesture audio cue were included, which is the kind of thing that makes the game feel lovingly maintained. Player interaction and movement were tightened up in several spots. Personal force fields no longer collide weirdly with exocraft, multi-tools won't pop into view when they're holstered, and camera locks when riding creatures and using gestures have been corrected so you don't get stuck looking at an awkward angle.